Okay, so welcome to Not So Sugar Coated by Bert, who's not here, and Jasmine. We're doing a series about porn, which is really awkward. And I did mine yesterday, I'm not gonna lie. And I kind of just went through it really, really fast because, to be honest, I'm still like embarrassed and ashamed of like my journey. Like, it's crazy. So I'm trying to get used to like sharing it and not be ashamed, because if you bring it to light, obviously everything's better if you do that. But we have some guest speakers today. We have Tiffany, who's already been here.
Hi.
And we also have Elaan.
Hey.
How do you say your last name again?
Kozegi.
I really like that, Kozegi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's pretty.
So I don't know if you guys want to say a little bit about yourself, because I don't think we even said that in the last episode.
Last episode? I don't think
No.
so. Yeah.
So, Tiffany, if you want to go first. He's like, no.
I'm like, what
do you want to go first?
No, I'm waiting for Tiffany.
Yeah. Let's wait for Tiffany.
What do you want me to say?
I don't know. Whatever comes to your mind, I guess.
Born in New York City, the Bronx. Moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan when I was, I think, like 11 years old, and been here since. I work at a church as a worship leader, and I manage the social media for the worship. I'm married, been married for 7 years, since August 6th. Yes, and we've been together for about 10 years. Tyler, he's great. He's in Austin right now. Yeah, I don't know. I blog. I am picking up a lot of hobbies right now because I don't know what to do with myself. So I've picked up photography, calligraphy, just something outside of what I normally do, because I do a lot of singing, and that used to be my creative outlet. So I'm in the season of figuring out what I like to do.
I'm so burpy. I'm just like looking at you trying to like suppress every burp.
Sorry, but it's just really funny. You can switch to water if you want. It's totally
But it's
fine.
so good.
I know.
So sorry.
We all have rose lemonades that are bubblies.
Yes. That backfired. But anyways, what was I saying? When you say, it's really, really interesting to me that you say, because now that singing basically is your job, it kind of takes out your creative outlet. So now you have to look for new ones. And I never like thought about that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I just realized that probably a few years ago.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Elaan, and I am.
She's also a singer.
I am also a singer. Wow. Big steps. But I formerly worked at a church with youth ministry, and I serve on a volunteer basis with young adults. And so I sing, I help lead worship at the young adult ministry, and I serve in the nursery with whatever age they give me. I'll take whatever they want. I don't really like the 1-year-olds because they're so like, they're kind of like not really talkative, but they also want to talk to you, but they also want to play by themselves, but they don't know what they want. So I don't like doing that, but they're really cute. And I grew up in Texas. I'm an only child, and now I've been living in Michigan for the past 6 years.
Wow. How long have you, what part of Texas again?
Houston.
Okay, Houston. All right. And then you've been here 6 years?
Yep, 6 years, September 10.
How old are you?
24.
I can't do math. So how old were you when you moved to Michigan?
I was 18. I graduated high school that June, and I was like, I'm going to go to Michigan,
Were you like nervous when you moved, or were you just like whatever?
No, I was ready.
Okay.
Being an only child, and I love my parents, but with my parents, it was time. Okay. I just needed to find myself and make things my own and experience life on my own and not be so attached to the things that my parents built.
Okay.
And just, I was ready for change.
It's really funny because when I think about somebody they're only 18 years old and they move, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. I could never do that, but I did do that. At 18, I went to Dallas, Texas to go to Bible college. So this is really funny. By myself, I didn't know anybody.
Yep.
I didn't have any family members or friends. I just went, and it's with $600 in my pocket, and that's it. No job, no nothing, no car.
Wow.
I just went, and now that I look back at it, I'm like, dang, that was crazy. But when the Lord ask you to do something, I guess you just do it.
Yeah. That's so crazy.
Yeah. Now looking back at it, I'm like, nah, man, I got a mortgage.
Oh my gosh.
No. So, okay. So we are doing a porn series in the podcast right now. And, you know, did I say this while we were, I can't remember if we were recording or not, but I'm like really nervous about this episode because like, it's just something that you don't really talk about it, especially for women. It's just, for churches is like you go to us men, they talk about porn and lust and all these things. But for like women, it's like, don't dress provocatively. And I think that's all, like, I don't even know. I think that's how far it goes without having like a conversation about being pure in your mind, and which is huge for men and women. So, yeah.
Yeah, like even with you saying that, thinking about some of the women's ministries that I've been a part of, like they don't even talk about it. Like I don't even think they ever like dabble in just mentioning it. Like they always just talk about, you're a woman of God and be strong and put on your armor and fight the devil. And I'm just like,
And Esther.
right. I'm just like, oh my goodness.
Well, and it sounds like it's always family based too.
Oh,
What they
yeah,
talk about.
that too.
It's just primarily that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have so much to say about that because I'm married and have kids, and it's so easy to lose your identity with kids. And then when they push that on you as well, it's like you feel like you're doing something wrong when you want to do something outside of your family, which is crazy. Like I'm still dealing with that. I still feel guilty, like wanting to do something. Like even right now, like my kids are not here. Bert took them to my in-laws and all this stuff, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I can't spend time with, like I'm not spending time with my kids. I'm a horrible person for just even thinking and something like that. So it's a whole thing. And then the other flip side is that we have women who are single and there's like nothing for them at the church.
Yeah.
And because I remember being single, I got married a lot later than the typical church people. I did not get married at 20 or 21. And the only option that you have is volunteer because supposedly you have nothing else to do. Yep. Yeah. And Tiffany, you're in a different place too. You're married and you're trying to have kids, but that doesn't mean you're not busy. Yeah. That doesn't mean that you can have an identity outside of Tyler. You know, I think you do that really well. So, yeah. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So, I guess I'll start a little bit with my porn story, I guess. I don't even know what else to call it. I kind of want to go briefly a little bit just because there's like a whole episode about it already. But okay, so I grew up in like in a Hispanic home, and Tiffany can relate. Yes. Well, my upbringing, I don't know if it's the same for you, Tiffany, but we grew up in a very like, we don't talk about sex. We don't talk about anything like that. You don't talk about periods. You don't talk about anything like that. I literally found out about sex through sex ed in 7th grade. Like,
same.
That's how I found out about it. I just, and basically the reason how I found out about it, I was curious. I was just like, how does a penis fit into my vagina? And so I looked it up. And at this time, it was gross, but I'm still looking at it. To the point where that's where I developed my addiction. And I, looked at it until I got like saved when I was 16. After that, I didn't really look at it. I was one of those, I guess, blessed people who didn't really get tempted after that. And then I went to Bible college after that, so I never really looked at it there. And then when I moved back is when it started up again. And I would say it was sporadically. It wasn't like, I guess because Bert was saying like, he was like almost like a daily thing. For me, it was more like every other month type of thing, but kind of saying like, this is the last time and you still do it anyways type. And and a few times I fell into during our marriage, like, and Bert knows this too. And then I think like my freedom came when I asked God, like, Bert was out of town and I got tempted, and I looked at it for like maybe 5 seconds, and I was just like, I was so convicted that like I literally threw my phone on the couch and like ran away from it. Like I just started pacing around the room, and I started praying to God, like, God, like I don't want this in my life anymore. You need to help me right now. Like, what's going on? Like, why? How did I get here? And God just basically said, you're not alone. And I was like, oh, hey. And basically was the root of it for me was that I was feeling lonely. So every time that I was looking at porn, God was telling me that it's because we were feeling alone. And he basically said, I am Emmanuel. God is with me. So you're never alone. Yeah. And so that was my conviction. That was the root of it. That was how I found out, like, okay, like why I was looking at it and why I was doing it. And so that's where I kind of started being free from that. So that's my gist of my story. And I don't know how far you guys want to go. Who wants to go next? But yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. Tiffany went first last time. Let's see. Well, you know, when I think about my story and like when it all started, it's so crazy because I had the same thing of like it had to be right after they gave me the puberty talk in school. I went to public school, and I was like in 4th grade, and I think my parents knew, like they probably sent them like a letter like, hey, we're going to do this talk or whatever. But up until that point, I don't think my parents ever talked to me about it. So it was very new to me. So I think it was after that. And I was like, because they talked to you about puberty and your body. And then I was like, I want to know what it's like to have boobs. Like, I don't know what it looks like because I didn't have any boobs. And that was like my gateway or the open door that led me into that. And so eventually my parents found out and they kind of walked with me through that. But it was when I actually got a personal device in middle school that it came up again, because it happened a couple times when I was younger where I would watch porn. But then in middle school, I got my own phone or whatever, or my own iPod. And it was like, whoa, I have this whole open space to like look at this stuff. And I didn't know.
Yeah. So I'm going to back up here.
Okay.
Because I like to back up.
Go for it.
Okay. So first of all, so when you said before you had a device, was it like in the computer?
Yeah. So we had like a family computer.
Yep.
And then like that was basically it. And then when the iPod Touch came out is when I got I think I had like an iPod Nano, and then I got the iPod Touch. And then that was when I was like, because you can go on the internet and all these different things.
Yeah. Did your parents like catch you, or was it more like they saw something in the computer, like, okay, it has to be her?
I think they saw it on the computer.
Okay.
And then that first time I don't really remember, but I do remember one time I had looked at it again in a more public setting, and then they like caught me, and then they like talked to me and helped me, or I don't even know what they did. I mean, it was so long ago, but they tried to walk with me through it.
So like they weren't like mad. They were more like listen, like this is.
Yeah, I never really I don't think they were mad. I don't really remember experiencing like shame from them. They just kind of wanted to help me with it. But when I got older, I don't know. I think I just felt this shame, and I didn't even like mention to them that I ever did that. Which is,
I mean, honestly, if it was my parents, they would have just acted like they didn't see it, because that's how we don't. That's how much like we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool that your parents try to like help you navigate that.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is like a parent that I want to be. So.
Yeah. And so I just, when I got that iPod in like middle school, that's when I just started looking at it more. And then I don't know. I guess my friend group started to switch when I was in like 8th grade. And so it went from like hanging out with church people all the time to hanging out with school friends, and their perspective on like sex and sexuality shifted, and it was different. And since I didn't have like friends at church or leaders at church to like redefine that for me, I just kind of started living based off of what other people were saying and at that time, like what was on social media and in shows and things like that.
Did you have social media at that point, like in middle school?
Yeah. I don't even remember when Instagram out, but I'm pretty sure I was like one of the first few to get it. I was probably like 13 or something.
Okay.
But yeah.
So for me, it's really hard to relate because I didn't get that until like way after college. Like, you know.
I think I was like senior in high school when I got in Facebook.
Yeah. And that makes me nervous. Like, oh my gosh, like what do I do with my kids when they want social media and stuff like that? Because I can't relate to that because I don't know what it feels like to be a middle school student and like do that. So anyways.
Yeah. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was about this influencer couple, and they had a baby and they don't show her on social media, and they were talking about why. And then in the husband was like, he said that they might one day have like this rule where they don't let their kids bring like their personal devices into a room with like a closed door. Like they can have the phone or whatever, but it's like in an open space. And I was like, that makes so much more, like I understand why he would do that, because it's when you're behind the closed door that you feel like you have so much freedom just to do these things. And then his wife was like, yeah, that's something we need to live out too, is we'll all just have a open space where we use our devices, but like the only thing you can have in your room is like a Kindle or something.
Yeah.
So
because kids are sneaky.
Yeah.
I like 2 instances. One person was like, they were looking through porn through Pinterest. So they deleted.
Wait.
Yes.
Pinterest?
Yes.
Since
oh my
when?
gosh.
Now I'm telling everybody everything.
Wait a minute.
So what it is, so they deleted their like internet browser and all these things. Okay. Mm-hmm. But when you go on Pinterest and you click on like a blog or something, it will automatically pop up a internet browser. So that's how they start looking at stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And another one is like there's like an app, I don't remember, but like you can switch the icon to like what do you call it, to whatever you want. So this person, I'm not gonna say who, was like they switched to a Bible app.
Stop. Wait, I think I heard this story.
And so I was like,
they were constantly like reading the Bible, and they're like, wow.
I ain't reading the Bible. I was like, what?
I think I know what you're talking about.
And I was just like, that's
so
new. That's so
bizarre.
sneaky.
Crazy.
Like they are sneaky. Like
No, I think I heard that through the Bible. I think this kid was actually using the Bible app, and through it they were sending nude pictures.
yeah.
That's insane.
It is insane. I was just like,
Oh my gosh, somebody tell Craig Rochelle.
Oh my word.
That's so crazy.
yeah.
So
it's
yeah,
just-
sneaky.
yeah, they're sneaky. Like it's just, yeah. So anyway, so that's a whole other
Yes.
topic that I'm like, I need to learn before my kids get too old. But anyways,
Yeah, that's so crazy. But after that, I was in high school, and I just kind of started. I realized when I was in high school, probably like my sophomore or junior year, like this is like, it was really a problem. Like I felt so bound. I felt really isolated in it. But I didn't have like the relationship with my parents to feel comfortable talking to them about it. And I didn't have leaders at school or at church that I felt comfortable with like confessing it to. And then I would go look like how to get free from porn. And it's like
it says free porn.
No, how to get free from porn.
No, but you know how you like Google that and then you're like, oh crap, this is actually porn.
Oh my gosh. It was so crazy. Anyways. And then it would just either be super vague or geared toward like adult men. And I'm like,
yeah, it's true. And it makes me so
15.
mad. I'm already pissed. Like you just saying that, like it's geared towards men or it's very vague. Like even now, up to now, like I hear sermons that are like, yeah, I used to be free from porn, but you know, God set me free and he can set you free too. And that's it. There is nothing in between that. And you're just like, excuse me, like give me some steps here or give me something that I can like start my journey with. Like, cause I know every journey is different and it's not not every single journey is going to be the same, but you got to give me something to, because everybody has made that prayer before. This is my last time. I'm never going to do it again. And then week later you're at it again. So how were you, who's speaking up in the front, were free and saying that you're never going to do it again? But why am I not holy enough?
Yeah.
That I can't be free, but you can, it's something that it makes me angry that people think that they legit can't get free from it.
Yeah.
So, sorry, my little rant. Sorry.
No, it's a good one.
Sorry.
It's good. Yeah. And so I struggled with that a lot, and I never really found anything. There would be like confess to a leader or confess to a person. I'm like, who am I going to? I just never felt safe with anyone to say that. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like from then I graduated high school and I still struggled with it. And it wasn't until 5 years ago when I had just started going to our young adult group, and there were 2 leaders. We were going to go to Target to do like evangelism. And so there was a group of us, and there was 2 like older women, a part of the ministry. And we had walked around Target, and we didn't really no one had anything like a person highlighted to pray for or anything. And then these 2 older ladies were like, hey, I feel like we need to pray for you and one of the other girls. And so they prayed for us in the middle of this Target. And then I just experienced, and they didn't know my story. They knew little things about it, but they didn't really know the things I had struggled with. I was new to the community. I was new to the church, and they prayed for me, and I could just so tangibly feel the Lord's presence. And I could just feel him lifting just the heaviness and the burden of just sexual impurity and addiction to porn. And from that moment was a huge turning point for me. And I just felt like God really met me in that Target. And it was right between the shoe section and the lingerie, which is so crazy. But anyways, that was how I found my freedom. And it definitely doesn't say I don't still struggle with temptation or lust, but I do believe that I was under a lot of heavy spiritual warfare with porn. And I needed that moment and that prayer from those 2 women to help alleviate that heaviness that I was feeling. And now I feel since then I have a deeper depth with the Lord about moving forward and having wisdom. And I have a clearer mind to actually create boundaries for myself and to not just, I don't know. It just was one of those moments, but I know that those moments don't happen for everyone. And so sometimes when I share my story, I feel I don't want people to get so caught up in the moment, because it's not always like that. And I don't know why. It just happens that way. But yeah.
Kind of with me, I said, when I got saved, it just went away. And then it creeped back because, obviously it's because I was prideful. I was I can do whatever I want and I think if I would have not been so prideful like that, I think I would have been completely free. But I think those moments are important. I think they are valid, and I think they are real, Mm-hmm. It just sucks that that's not for everybody. Yeah. But I think that they're equally both important. Mm-hmm. And I think I don't want to diminish people who have those moments, and the people who don't. That doesn't mean that God is not there for you, mm-hmm. So when you say they were praying for you at Target, were they specifically praying for that, or they were just specifically praying freedom for you?
I don't even remember what they said.
Okay.
It was just one of those moments.
You just felt the presence.
I just felt it, and they knew of I'm trying to think. There wasn't they didn't know that I had a porn addiction. They knew I had sex before marriage and different things like that, but outside of that, they didn't really know any details or depth of what I was going from, and they could sense with me and my other friend that there was this heaviness of whatever on us, and they just prayed for us. Okay, it was crazy.
All right, and then you said, so have you been tempted since then?
Not to watch porn.
Okay,
I noticed that in seasons of, I don't like the word seasons, in times of loneliness, mm-hmm. or lack of depth or intimacy with friends is when I get tempted to masturbate.
Okay.
But outside of that, I haven't. And I think one of the reasons why I don't is I've learned a lot about, I don't think I ever realized how much human trafficking is within the porn industry.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
And so when I found that out, that was even the cherry on top. I was absolutely not. I'm not going to try to feed in or support or any of that. But I didn't know that as a kid, and I didn't know that as an adult until like recent years. It's just so crazy.
So you said that you're more tempted to masturbate.
I think, yeah, when I notice that I'm just like not spending enough time with friends that I enjoy, or I'm isolating myself, that's kind of when I get triggered, because I'm feeling that loneliness or that lack of relational intimacy.
Yeah. And I think it's easy nowadays to isolate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just is, because you can binge watch something. You can just, I don't know, you can do whatever you want nowadays without really having any like real human interaction. So,
yeah.
All right. Tiffany.
My turn. I'd say I had a similar story as you did, Jazz. Gosh, I recall childhood memories of just my parents would be watching a movie or some sort of TV show or something, and some sex scene comes up, and they're like, "Get out of the room, get out, or close your eyes."
Yeah.
And you're like, "But why?" Like you're kind of closing your eyes, but you're kind of like trying to peep through it, and that always, I think, sparked some sort of like curiosity of like, what can I not? Why can't I see this? And similar thing, like we never had the sex talk or even how a woman's body works, and I got that through sex ed in school. And even like, remember the first day I got my period, my mom didn't even know, because I was like, I know how to take care of this, like you don't, like I can do this on my own. And the only sex talk that I ever got from my parents were, don't have sex. That was it. Like, don't have sex. So I got introduced to it through the family computer as well. We would have times where we can go and play games, and I would be playing games, and then an ad would pop up. How do these ads get into kids' games? I have no idea, but they were like kid games. And in my mind, I think I connected that imagery similar to images that I couldn't see before. So then I clicked on it, and that's kind of what got me into it. I was probably, I want to say like maybe like 10 years old, 11 years old when it was introduced. And I got caught. So I didn't get caught like on the spot doing it, but my dad came and found me. He's like, "Hey, can we talk?" I'm like, "Yeah," which is shocking, right? That my dad would come and talk to me about that. But he said, have you been looking up things that you shouldn't be on the computer? And I remember just getting super nervous. And I was like, he's like, "I talked to your brother and it wasn't him." And I mean, me and my dad are really, really close, so I can't hide anything from him. And I said, "Yeah, it was me." And I felt, the whole time, even when I would watch things, I always felt very shameful, because it was something that if I wasn't allowed to see it with my parents, I knew that I was doing it in secrecy, but I didn't know why it was bad. But it's like I felt bad for watching it. And I remember him saying he was disappointed, but I think just getting caught by my dad, and because of the relationship that we have, I just didn't want to do it again because of that. I was tempted after that, and maybe would fall into it here and there. But I honestly didn't really struggle with it much after that encounter. I want to say, honestly, I can't recall. It's not like I had this this moment with the Lord and was completely freed of it. I don't know at what point in my life I just stopped caring for it. Yeah.
So when you said, when your dad had that discussion, does that mean that you completely stopped right after that? Or?
No, I still, there was maybe a few faults that I had, but outside of that, I really didn't.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you feel like you get tempted now?
Not really. No, not really. Not to go and search for it myself.
Okay.
Does it trigger something if I'm watching a movie or there's a scene? It triggers something, but it doesn't make me want to go search for it. Okay. I'll just skip it and I'll be fine. Yeah, but no, not really.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Just I think it's different for women. I don't know how to explain it, but you know, obviously the man's brain is different than the woman's brain.
Yeah.
But like, I think for the reason why women do it is for like either isolation or alone or something like that. Versus like for men, it's more, I would say like a lot of them I use it for like stress reliever. And I think for me it's just like, okay, like I feel alone or insecure or something like that. So for like women like who watch porn, I mean, it's the same amount, like women and men is like the same statistic. It's not like anything different, but I think it's just different why we do it, which is crazy to me. And that we don't even talk about it.
Well, I still I carried a lot of shame still until the young adult ministry that I was at. I remember there was after worship was done, a female volunteer had come up. I think you might have been there at the time.
Maybe, I don't know.
And she shared her testimony of being freed from pornography. And I remember just being shocked because at that point, I would say the church didn't really talk about porn. And if it was mentioned, it was usually about guys having problems with pornography. So I remember being shocked. And that kind of was the opening door of like, wait, like I'm not alone in this. Like I wasn't the only one that had struggled with, because I always felt weird. I'm like, why? Like once I found out that it was mainly like a guy thing, I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, why was I interested in this to begin with?
I felt the same way too, by the way. When like I held my secret for so long, and even when I would talk about it, I would talk about it like if it was in the past. Yeah. Like I didn't have any issues with it anymore. Because technically I hadn't seen it in a month. So I am free from it. Yeah. I would mention it like, I used to. And it's like, nah, girl, like do a heart check. Yeah. You're still into it. Just because you haven't seen it in a month, you're not free. And so, because I was so shameful, because women are not supposed to act that way. Women are not supposed to think that way or see that stuff, you know, like, and so that's where, that's why I was so like nervous at even mentioning that, because it's not quote unquote normal, but statistics are telling us something completely different. So,
well, I have a friend who she has a pretty high sex drive, and she's mentioned to me before, she's like, is this normal? Like, should I be like, I feel like I'm so like an odd person because it's not normal. Women are just not normally like that sexually active. And I'm like, I think that's the problem. I think the problem is we're being told that most women are not sexually active, that once you get married, like your sex drive dies down. And this, I don't know, I feel like I always hear that side of things that makes it seem like, oh, only men are like super sexually, like all they want is sex. And women, no, women don't really think about that stuff. And then, you know, even someone who is married and does have a high sex drive feels like they're out of place because of how I think culture has kind of molded that for women.
Yeah, especially in the church. Because even when you watch like raunchy movies, like women are like, whatever, like I'll do what I want with my body type of thing. And it's like they're trying to match up to like a guy's sexual drive. Like, and now it's like, but in the church, it's still like, no, we are not going to talk about this. Right. Let's the men handle this. And it's crazy. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I would say I didn't really share about it because I felt still some sense of shame of it until we started doing at our young adults ministry a Sex and God conference where we talk about sex and all things about it, identity, homosexuality, all the things. And that was the first time where I felt like I can actually, like, I'm like, wow. We would have conversations in our meetings about it, and I felt like, I'm like, can I say anything? Should I say anything? I'm a leader in this. Like, is it weird that I used to struggle with that? And I don't know, it was just still, it was very weird for me. But that's kind of what opened the door for me to be able to share that I had struggled with that, and which I think allows me to even be here right now. You know?
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, like, so you're single. Wait, are you single?
Yes.
Okay. I'm all like, wait, she probably has a boyfriend. I'm like, oops. Okay. So as a single person, what advice would you give to men or women, I guess?
Oh boy. There's just so much. I think, yeah. I think one of the things I'll start off with, I know I had mentioned like growing up, I didn't have anyone to confess to, but now that I've been like planted into a church community and at a young adult group, like I now feel, and especially with the things that our young adult group has been teaching about, I now feel comfortable talking to either my friends a part of that group or that church, or like leaders at that church about my struggle. So if you aren't planted in a church community that you feel comfortable repenting to, then I would encourage you to find one, because that does help. Like when you, at least for me, like when I started telling someone, it really kind of released the weight of it.
Yeah.
And also it's kind of like, man, that thought just I lost it. But
It's all good.
yeah, I would say telling someone, because that whole like thing of like, I'm free, I can do whatever I want thing kind of changes, because it's like, well, if I do this now, I have to go tell someone. Like if you have a friend that you can be accountable with and say, hey, like, can we, if I fall, or having that conversation of being able to share the struggles that you go through and repenting to them about it, that helps a lot, because now it doesn't really put like a fear, but it also kind of just puts this like, I don't know.
Somebody can check on you.
Yeah, you have someone checking in on you, and you're not just like always stuck in it. And then my other piece of advice is to like know, or to discover what like the root of it is, and what you're lacking. What are you feeling this way because maybe you haven't hung out with your friends as much over the past few weeks, and you've been at home, or you've been working so much that you're not getting like the social things that you're getting, or figuring out what area of your life is lacking and what could be triggering that desire. And then from there, just, I don't know, pray, seek the Lord, go to a wise Christian counselor that can help walk with you, that you feel safe sharing about. Because you want to steward your sex drive well. It's not a bad thing. It's how God designed us, but there's also a way for us to live our lives with that, and not feel like words are not my thing today.
It's a Monday.
It is definitely a Monday. But yeah, hopefully that's like kind of making sense.
No, it does. I really like what you said, like steward your sex drive well. That is something as a single person needs to learn how to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn that. You know what I mean? I didn't. And yeah, everything has a root to it, especially like sin. And so like when people like, they say like, oh, like don't do this, don't do that. And which is totally fine. But like, if you don't learn how to like steward that, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Period. Versus like, okay, I can't do this. I can't. And you're so focused on no, that you're going to fail. Versus like, okay, how can I learn how to manage this and be successful?
Yeah. I think even just like like you said, placing boundaries in your life of like, if you can't watch a movie because of a sex scene that will trigger you, then don't. And who cares what other people think? They're not responsible for your relationship with the Lord. They're not responsible for your eternity. And just figuring out what your boundaries are and set them, and have someone that you can be accountable with, so that if that happens, you can go and confess to them. And always just seek and pray it, and know that, God is just like, I heard this, well, I feel like there's two quotes. A quote I heard yesterday was, God doesn't count how many times you fall, he counts how many times you get back up.
Yeah. And
another quote that I had heard was like, sometimes this girl was talking about how she was struggling with masturbation, and she would always, something that helped her was like, after she would masturbate, she would always remind herself like, God has never loved me more than in this moment right now. Like God's love for you doesn't shift when you fall or you slip up. It doesn't mean that he's like saying to keep doing it, but just in terms of like shame, it's like he still loves you and he's still willing to walk with you and be patient with you and just to give you, you know, what you need and not to feel like you have to like, he's always like, clean yourself up, you messed up and you need to get your life together. He's just like, I love you. And learning how to, I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling now.
No, that's good. I think the key thing is relationship with God in that, because I think a danger that can happen with even having boundaries and setting those up and saying, oh, I have someone that I can be accountable with, is that can become mundane. And that can be like, oh, I confess, I'm good. Almost like when you go to a priest and you confess your sins,
right.
and you know, that can become, I think that can be slippery if not cautious. And I think having that, but also having that fellowship with God, I think obviously the more you spend time in scripture and the more you spend time in fellowship with him, your mind is renewed and your desires start to change. Yeah. And it becomes, when you do have a fault, you have someone that you can confess to and keep you accountable, but that I think will start to minimize as the quantity of how many times that happens. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's really good.
And with that, because I mean, I said it with Bert too, but what I said was like, your accountability partner is not responsible for your sin.
Yeah, that's good.
I was like, because, you know, we always talking about getting an accountability partner. Like even when we were dating, I was like, make sure that you have a couple that you are like telling them and all this other stuff, which is, I understand. I understand the concept of it, but they're not responsible for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so like the expectation back in the day for me was like, oh, my accountability partner is going to reach out to me. And it's like, you know what though? You need to reach out to them. Yeah. And you need to say, hey, I am having a bad day today. Yeah. Hey, I am struggling with this today. Yeah. Because your accountability partner is not responsible for you. And they got a life too. It's not like they're like, oh, I wonder if Jasmine's going to call me or text me today. Like you need to say something, and you need to say like, yeah, you're my accountability partner, but you're also going to have to speak up and say something. So I would say that, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's good that what you said, Tiffany, about it is really actually about relationship and just knowing, because the more you spend time with God through prayer and the word is, the more you realize that he is enough. Yeah. And that you start to understand him better. And that just reigns above it all. And then that's when it comes into confession and accountability. But prioritizing your time with him and getting to know his character will help everything else, you know, flow into place.
Because I would say I don't recall having that like just change moment, but I do recall there was a moment in my life where I started spending more time in prayer and in scripture. And I think that's definitely when like I realized, I'm like, wait, I'm not tempted to go see something, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. And like, it was like talking to like about this, like, you know, like how like, Romans 6 is about like, so are we not gonna, like, we are no longer under the law but under grace? Does that mean we get to sin more? And it's like, of course not. Okay, so we need, because we are free in Christ. And the more you read that chapter, and I was telling him like, the more confusing it gets, because it's like, oh, you're free, but that doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. That means that you're just free in Christ, and you're just like, wait, what? And I was like telling him, it's kind of like because I watch Friends a lot. It's like the Friends episode where like where they find out that Monica and Chandler are like getting together. So like, they don't know that we know that they know. That's literally what that chapter reminds me of, because it's like, I'm free, but I'm not no longer in the law, but that doesn't mean you absolve the law. You means that you're just free in Christ. And so you're like, okay.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, I would never got that revelation if I didn't spend time with God. I would have never gotten that, like, I would have never gotten that chapter if I didn't spend time with God and be like, okay, what do you mean by this? Right. Why are you, like, what does it mean? Like, just a difference between like reading the word and just be like, okay, here's my checklist for the day versus like, okay, what are you trying to say to me today with this? But having a relationship with God, I feel like he's the one who's going to reveal to you what your boundaries are versus like a pastor or a leader telling you like, turn off your phone at 10 p.m. Like, you know,
they're just speaking from their own experience.
Right.
Yes.
That's doesn't work for everyone.
No. And like, I think they mean well.
Oh yeah.
And I think what they're saying is not like wrong. It's just more like you're going to fail because you're going to have a little checklist. Okay, I'm not going to have my smartphone after 10 p.m. Okay, I'm not going to watch this movie because of this. And then like 3 months later, you're bored, you're by yourself, haven't prayed, haven't read your Bible, and you're all of a sudden 3 hours deep into Instagram and you broke and you broke down. And the reason why I'm saying it this way is because I have failed at that. I'm speaking from my experience with that. But I know like when you spend time with the Lord and when you are the one that's like, okay, what do you want from me, God? And all this other stuff. I think that stuff, like, it minimizes it. It doesn't really go away, but it minimizes it to the point where, like, if the enemy comes with this thought, you are strong enough to be like, okay, not today, Satan.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like the two key points of that is when you spend time with the Lord, he'll reveal to you what the root issue is. Yeah. And only that way can you get really, in a sense, like healed from.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to say?
I'm good.
No, I'm good.
I'm good. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
No, really, seriously, thank you, because I know it's not easy. It's, it can get really awkward real fast. And I think that's it. I think next week it will be with Tyler, Bert. Yeah, I think that's it. Well, thank you for listening. I don't know, Bert usually ends these, and I don't know how to end them. Well, thank you for listening, and see you guys next week.